I've been asked so many times why I wrote the book, The Roof, and I actually, in all honesty, was very hesitant. I almost didn't want to write the book, and I can't tell you exactly why. But it seemed like it had gotten to a point where that event had become so personal and so uh, magnificent in a way that it was just almost hard to try and describe, even though I have talked about it in other books. But this book uh, was going to be a special book. I knew that. And I think I was, shall we say, overwhelmed with the task of really doing justice to the whole space and time that I was able to occupy. The Roof was a special moment. I was in the music business for 30 years, working with some of the greatest people of all time. And people ask me, well, what is your one, two, and three biggest moments in rock and roll in the music business? And I can name number one. And then when I get down to two and three, they're so far away, they just seem to pale. The moment on the roof was something that I hadn't expected and something that only a few of us got to share. And so my hesitancy about writing the book was completely dissolved when I realized there was something that out of all the Beatles books and all the fans and everything about that, I never really got this sense that there were people who were there who really got to give the reader a sense of what being there was about, including the whole experience with the Beatles. A lot of great books, a lot of great authors. And I would say that I believe, as I've looked through these things, that the books that you should search out are the ones by the people who were there, and not the secondhand reports so much, which are important because I couldn't have written this book without the historians and the people who have taken and put a lot of focus on what actually went on, because some of us, we weren't really aware of what was going down. We knew it was a big deal. We knew it was just incredible, but a lot of us were just swept up into it and had no idea just how fabulous the Fab Four were and the times that we were spending with them. I realized that on the roof, I wanted to take people on the roof. I wanted to give people a sense of the smells, the feelings, the building, the people that were there, the things we experienced, more of the emotion of the thing and what it was really like. If I could have taken any one of you, just said, hey, come on up there, come on up with me. We're going to go up on the roof today. I can't do that because that time has passed, but I hope in the book that this is what I've done, where I can just take you by the hand and walk you up to the roof and see what I experienced. And the one great thing about being an author is when people recognize what you have tried to accomplish, and in their mind, you have accomplished that. And I've had so many people tell me they just felt like they were there. So the roof is an emotion as much as it is as anything, besides a performance and besides a magical moment in time, possibly one of the greatest moments in rock and roll. So I didn't worry as much about the facts, the details. I mean, they're definitely there. And before I scare you off, that is why I ask people like Robert Rodriguez and Bruce Spicer and Stefan Granados and Mark Lewison to check my work with me, to look it over and to fill in the facts parts where maybe I didn't remember things clearly. I wanted the book to be perfect from that standpoint without me having to do all that more clinical work. And so I could just feel free to express what it felt like. And the thing about the last time the Beatles performed together live was there was a background to our time together. There was a background to why I ended up being with them and having such a special place in that whole time, because we set up Apple. They brought me over to London. and we set it up in London, but we were aimed at America. America was where we had to establish the label, where we had to break the first records. We had to establish the label in America. So that was the main focus. That did not mean that England or the rest of the world was important, but America was seemed to be the trigger. In America, everybody said, well, California leads the fashions and the things in America a lot. And so anyway, that was our focus. So that put me in a position of being U.S. manager of Apple Records, and in the process, I had an informal title of being a personal liaison, to where we could communicate back and forth about everything from personal things to the business things. But that was a reason that I ended up being there at that time. Now, I was just in London that week, just working. I would work back and forth sometimes. I had no reason for being there that particular week other than just what we were doing at the time. And I had no idea that the roof was going to happen. Now, I knew that we had to find a place for the final concert. That was a part of the Let It Be film. And that was supposed to be, and as I was understanding, the climax of the film. And the footage needed to be gotten before the film was done. And time kept passing by. And they kept coming up with all these ideas. They would and call me in America. Mal Evans called me and said, "Hey, they're thinking about doing this in a desert, and they want me to scout out the deserts in southwestern United States." And Mal was assigned to try and scoop out the Sahara Desert during this time. And well, that was a crazy idea. We realized that that was not going to work, because a free concert for every kid in the world that want to come and see the Beatles play for the last time. I think we all realized that trying to ensure a thing like that was impossible. And also the thing that really killed the whole thing is how do you get that many porta potties in one place and everybody making it back home alive. But anyway, so I'm in London and I'm working that day. And Mal came into the office I was using, and he said, "Hey, we're going up on the roof." Now, the roof was on a building that was in Savile Row, which was in the Mayfair district, and it was filled with people who had become close friends, people who were caught up in the magic of the Beatles thing. And the Beatles, the wonderful thing when you were working with them, it wasn't like, hey, I'm a Beatle and you're not. If you were involved with them, they made you feel part of the family. So it was a very family thing. And when you walk down the Mayfair district, walk down Savile Row, it was a very, very plush district. And the Beatles wanted to be serious, and they wanted people to know they were serious about their business. So they picked one of the best addresses in London. And Savile Row was one of the best streets in the best area. And when you would walk down that street and come to the little stairs, just a few stairs up to the front door, and walk through that door, it was like coming off a street of high-class tailors and bankers and very upscale place, into like walking into kind of a beautiful madhouse in a way. It was just you coming from the quiet and the staidness of that street into a building that just rocked all the time. You never knew what was happening there. Derek's tailor office would be filled with maybe the Hells Angels. It was just it's just things going on. The Beatles would be there individually, collectively, just depending on who decided to come in that day. So I'm in the office working on some project. I don't remember what it was. And Mal came in and said, "Hey, Ken, we're going on the roof." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, we've decided to go on the roof to do the final performance, because everything's just too complicated trying to get everything worked out, getting everybody in one place, everybody, hauling equipment, booking airplanes, doing all this stuff. And we decided to do it at home." So, okay, well, I had 15 minutes, Mal said, before this thing was going to come off. Well, I'm a Californian. I didn't have any warm clothes. Here it is, the end of January in the winter in London. And so I just ran down the street and to the first men's store and grabbed the first coat. It was actually on a rack. It was my size. And it happened to be a white coat. and I thought it was a top coat, it was a raincoat, but that's a whole nother story because I froze anyway because I didn't really have warm clothes. But uh, I come up on the roof, and you go up it's on the fifth floor. There's a five-story building, and so it's on top of that. And as you get to the last story, the stairs are very narrow, the doorway is very narrow. Uh, it was almost impossible for them to get all the equipment up there because there was a turn in the stairs. And so they had to actually take out a skylight to get some of the stuff. So I'd been hearing all this noise in the building for a couple of days, and I just thought, the building was still pretty new, so I just thought somebody was remodeling an office, and the office I was using was kind of on the second floor, first floor. I think it was George's office because he would let me use his office because he used mine in L.A. And anyway, so I came up on the roof, and that cold air hit me. And Yoko and I and Maureen and Chris O'Dell, who was Peter Asher's assistant, turned out to be the only four people that could be considered an audience that day. And everybody else had a job. They were either in the band, or Billy Preston, or the cameraman, or just people that had a job. The roof couldn't hold many more people. It was a very small space. And so Yoko and I and Maureen and Chris were seated against the chimney and about 4 to 6 feet away and watched the whole performance. So we were looking right in the faces of the guys. We were seeing all the emotion of it. We were cold. We were feeling the same cold they felt. The wind would come across there, and during the time, John, his fingers were just freezing. It was a hard time. George's fingers were so cold. At one time, he'd have me light some cigarettes so he could hold his tips of his fingers again to warm them up. But it was like experiencing something together that had to be done, and there were, problems doing it, obviously, just because of the weather and all that. And but it was something the group of people there were doing together. It was. I use the phrase a lot that people just kind of shake their head by saying it was another day at the office because there was always something going on, and that's why more people in the building didn't even try to get up there. People were known, most of them couldn't come up because there wasn't room and the weight and all that. But some people didn't even try because they didn't. It was just another day, another crazy thing going on. So I'm sitting there, and something happened. I didn't realize it was a big deal, but partway through the thing, and to back up a little bit, times were not good at that time. There was a lot of dissension, a lot of problems, a lot of things going on with Apple, a lot of things going on with the band, and we all know this. This is not like anything that people didn't know, but it was a hard time. And when they came up on the roof, and I was told later that when they got to the door, that basically they hadn't really decided that they would for sure go through the door. Now, this is what I was told. So they came out there, and they started playing, and something happened. It was like they went inside each other and looked around and went, yeah, this is us. This is us. We're a band. We're a good 4-piece band. We've been mates for so long. We've been through so much to each other. And this is who we really are at this moment. This is who we are. And I really wrote in a book that I said that they came up on the roof without a sound check. They went back down the stairs with a soul check. And Paul looked over at John, or John looked over at Paul, and you could just see that look in their face. Yeah, this is good. This is what we do. This is what we've done. And first, I guess it was like a project. But honestly, now I'm going to my opinion of things. I really feel they needed that. They needed that last time together to remember who they were. And I really think it helped them in doing Abbey Road to come together as a band again. So we're on the roof. The people, nobody can, we can't see anybody. We can see the people on the windows, getting on the windows ledges and on the fire escapes and all that kind of stuff. And they're starting to dot the other rooftops. But we couldn't see what was going on down the street, and the street couldn't see us. So that was kind of interesting. And they played like they were playing to a real audience. And I don't think they realized how real the audience turned out to be, because you couldn't see, you couldn't see them. But when it was over, they turned around and went down the stairs. And Chris and I and Yoko and Maureen followed them down. And here's the interesting part, is none of us said anything to each other. When I got back down to the offices, I don't know if they just left the building or if one of them went down to the studio and or one of them went to their office, but it just was like none of us talked about it to each other that were up there. We went about our business, and this feeling that something had happened that day, something different, something you couldn't put your finger on. We didn't understand it. And I don't think we really understood it. In fact, Chris O'Dell and I don't think we talked about it for 30 years later. It was like something private, something personal, something magnificent. And it was like something we treasured. And that was one of the reasons why I was hesitant in writing the book, because it was almost like it was something really special to share with friends, I guess. So I hope that I accomplished that in the roof. There's a lot of things there. I give the reader the opportunity to meet some people maybe they don't read as much about normally. People like Jack Oliver, who was one of the real worker bees there, and Chris O'Dell, and just some of the different people that were, really a part of it. What it felt like with each other, what it was. I just want to let you be able to smell the street outside and feel the green carpet in the in the building, and feel the wind blowing in your hair up on the roof. I want you to know the Beatles better. I want you to know what it was like. And there was this sense that day that it was over. Nobody said, yeah, this is the last time. Apple's going to basically close up after a while. The Beatles are going to break up. None of that was discussed or maybe even thought about. You just had that sense that something had come or was coming to the end. And so, anyway, I thank you for the opportunity to just talk about the roof in the book and my experience. And by the way, if you are interested in getting the book, I love to autograph personal copies. All you need to do is go to my website, mainmansfield.com. That's MAINMANSFIELD.com, and order the book from there. And I will autograph it to you personally if you want me to say something. Maybe not that you helped me write the book, but no, but anyway, yeah, I just wanted to be a personal thing for you, because this was a personal moment, and I'd like to share it with you in that way. Mainmansfield.com. My other books are on there too, and so if you want to delve deeper into some of my other times in the business and stuff, you can do that too.